Hello again, folks. The last couple, a while back I did a couple reviews of demos, and I had fun doing those, so I figured, you know what? I'm going to keep doing that. So today I'm looking at the Final Fantasy XIII-2 demo. The game, if I remember correctly, comes out tomorrow, as of my recording this. So it's nice and topical. But anyways, I guess I want to first start out by talking a little bit about Final Fantasy XIII-1. And, if you look at the reviews at, like, Metacritic or GameRankings.com, overall, it got pretty good reviews. Maybe not as high as you would expect from a main Final Fantasy title. However, if you talk to fans, a lot of people saw it as a really big disappointment for the series. And I can definitely understand why. They changed a lot of sort of series conventions, and it sort of struck out on its own sort of thing. It was much more linear than the usual Final Fantasy game. The action, as you can see, was sort of more, it was still turn and menu based with the active time bars and that kind of thing, but it just had this much more sort of action-centric look to it. And as you can see just from watching this, that's definitely carried over into the new one. Like I said, it was more linear. A lot of people really didn't like the story. And, by no means was it a bad game. Some people might try to make that argument. I would personally disagree. However, I certainly agree it was not up to really what the series is capable of. I'm personally in the camp that thinks Final Fantasy VI was the best. And maybe that's just because I really started gaming on the Super Nintendo, so I have a soft spot for the old pixel graphics. Maybe that's the case, I don't know. A lot of people like Final Fantasy VII. That's a good game. Personally, it's not my favorite in the series. As for the sequel here, I played 13 a fair bit. I haven't beat it yet. I actually do intend on going back and finishing that game. So personally, I think a lot of people sort of treat it unfairly because the battle system is really good once you get into it. The very beginning of 13, it really takes a long time holding your hand before you really get into the really the meat and potatoes of the game. However, once you get in there, it's a really strategic, really fun, really fast-paced battle system. And I really didn't even mind how linear the game was. It's just one of those things you sort of have to approach it as, alright, I'm judging this as a game first and as a Final Fantasy game second. If you look at it that way, then I think a lot of people would view it better. Anyways, just from what I've experienced with this demo, I really can't say too much about the story. It really doesn't give you too much context as to what's going on. However, the graphics are once again pretty. I imagine the PS3 version is better. I'm playing on the 360 here. If I do end up getting this game, I will definitely get it on PS3. It's just one of those games where I get the impression that it was really designed with the PlayStation 3 in mind. However, from what I can judge so far, the dungeon that's included in this, it's not, a huge open thing by any stretch of the imagination. However, there are more branching paths, more options to take. So I get the impression that it's not going to be as linear as before. Some reviews are already out for the game, and they're saying that there's definitely a lot more freedom in this. I know there's a time travel element in this game as well. And, that can lead to any number of possibilities. Some games do time travel really well, like Chrono Trigger, but overall time travel is kind of a tough thing to deal with. And, okay, I gotta talk about this chick here. Alright, this is the shop lady, I guess. And for some reason, she's dressed like a carnival dancer you'd expect to find in Rio de Janeiro. And from the looks of it, she's wearing a dead baby chocobo on her head. I find that kind of weird and creepy. I like chocobos. I don't want them to be worn as hats. But oh well. Okay. At least this time they actually have people running shops instead of you just approaching weird floaty things, which I guess is a step in the right direction. And another thing that comes back from this is sort of a modified version of the Crystarium, I think they called it, which is the level up system, where you pretty much earn experience and you spend that sort of upgrading various paths on sort of an upgrade board. And the nice thing, from what I can tell here, is they don't restrict it like they did in 13. In 13, you could, like, pretty much your progression was based on the story. You could only, like, level up so much in any given area, then you progress the story and more options became available. And I'm a compulsive grinder when it comes to RPGs. I like making myself ridiculously overpowered as soon as possible. So I like being able to just grind away and make myself awesome. As you see, we've jumped ahead a bit here. This is the end of the demo. It goes into a boss fight, and I think this really sort of shows off what I really like about this battle system. Is personally, the way I see it, there are sort of 3 elements to fighting, and this was true in Final Fantasy XIII, and now it's true in the sequel here as well. Is first of all, there's trying to get the enemy to stagger. This is what I'm doing now. Really, that little bar in the upper right-hand corner, you try to fill that up. This staggers the enemy, drastically lowers their defense, allows you to do a crap load more damage. There's the healing element, because as you're smacking away at them, the enemy's smacking away at you. You know, it's good to reciprocate like that. So you got to heal up, and then once you do finally stagger the enemy, you go all-out balls to the wall action. And they have what they call the paradigm system, and it allows you to shift your focus. You have your medic focus, your commando, and your ravager. Medic's fairly obvious, that's healing. Commando is, of course, going all out balls to the wall action. And the ravager, that's really trying to stagger the enemy. And as the game progresses, there's different ones. There are going to be focuses that are going to be based on buffing and debuffing, or playing more defensively. So it's not, as simple as I made out here, but this is, I'm guessing, fairly early in the game, because you're sort of limited in your choices. Another thing to add to this game is you now have a monster with you. You actually sort of capture monsters. It's kind of like Pokemon, I guess. You can sort of randomly find them at the end of the match. And their leveling up system works a little differently, but it's the same basic concept. Except each monster only has one focus. Like the guy I'm doing right now, he's a Ravager focus. And also you have sort of like special attacks, the little synchronization bar underneath the your monster buddy's health bar. Once it fills up, they can do a special attack. That's what I just did with him. His is sort of a lightning-based thing. As you can see, I had the enemy staggered. He was down on the ground. All of a sudden, instead of doing tiny little bits of damage, I was causing hundreds of points of damage. That's ultimately what allowed me to beat him. And that brings us to the next point here. Quick time sequences. Love them or hate them. If you saw my Asura's Wrath demo review, I love them in that game. This game, I don't know. It doesn't feel right in a Final Fantasy game. And mind you, I just talked about how Final Fantasy XIII, if you judge it not as a Final Fantasy game, it's better than it is if you do judge it as a Final Fantasy game. So maybe I'm being a little hypocritical here, but whatever. I'm a hypocrite. I admit it.
How did we get here?
But anyways, I don't know. It just seems kind of out of place in this game, but I guess they work. It's not too bad. And of course, in keeping with tradition, aim for the big glowy crystal thingy on the back of the enemy's head, and he's bound to die, as we're about to see here. Anyways, overall though, I think from what I've seen here, they've improved on some of the complaints I had with 13, and the battle system looks to be just as good. The game looks to be a little more open. Though, like I have heard in reviews, the story sucks, but hey, whatever. We'll see what it's like in the end. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you later, people.